Welcome to the Timeless Marketing Podcast with Brian Kurtz, your connection to insights from some of the top direct response marketing minds on the planet.
Hey, it's Brian Kurtz here, host of the Timeless Marketing Podcast. Today's episode is a clip from one of the 2-hour calls inside Titan's Accelerator, my private mentorship program for direct response marketers. Before we get to that, I have one question for you. Do you have a marketing insurance policy? If you don't, you need one. And that's why I created Titan's Accelerator, which is one of the most giving communities and serves as the de facto board of advisors and marketing insurance policy for over 250 of the best and brightest direct response marketers, copywriters, media buyers, marketing agencies, senior executives, anyone in direct response marketing who is committed to growing and scaling their business. The bottom line, you don't have to grow your business alone. And you don't need to spend tens of thousands of dollars either. Titan's Accelerator is 1/10 of the price of most groups of its kind. I know because I hosted a group that was over $20,000 a year. If you want to see how Titan's Accelerator can help you grow and scale your specific business, go to briankurtz.net/help. That's BRIANKURTZ.net/help. And with a private membership, you'll receive access to the full presentation from today's episode, along with the Q&A and discussion that followed. As an added bonus, you'll receive access to a vault filled with many more private calls just like this one. Again, if you want to see if Titan's Accelerator is a fit for you with no obligation, go to briankurtz.net/help. That's BRIANKURTZ.net/help. And feel free to email me directly. I respond to every email with questions about this episode or just to say hi at brian@briankurtz.net. Now on to today's episode.
I think everybody wants to hear Ryan Lee, so they want to. They're sick of the breakout rooms. They want just Ryan to shed light on his career. So, hey Ryan, how you doing?
Hey Bri. Yes, I'm going to talk about myself and offer zero value and zero practical takeaways. That's my goal.
That was your goal, but that was your assignment, so that was good too.
That is.
So you're a man that follows the rules, so that's good.
Bri, if you could just I'd like you to ask a question, but take 35 minutes to ask the question and give a lot of quotes, and then give me 30 seconds to answer.
Yeah. So I'll give a little introduction on this. So, Ryan and I have been friends for a very long time, and I titled this, for lack of anything bad, I call it the lifelong pivot, because when I met Ryan, we had a small, we called it the $25 group, as opposed to the $25,000 group, which was Joe Polish's. So Joe Polish had the 25K group. We had the $25 group, and the $25 represented who brought the bagels to the meeting.
Yeah.
And so it was me and Ryan and Jim Quick and Michael Fishman, and we would just get together, and it was sort of like it was an accountability group more than anything else. And we'd each be on the hot seat for 20 minutes or a half hour, and just what we're up to, where we're struggling, where we're killing it. And so in the early days of that, Ryan was notorious for coming up with every meeting. It was a new idea, and it was a good idea. It was always a good idea. But it was always like the last idea was old news, and this is a new idea. And it was like a study in an ADHD entrepreneur who was killing it in everything he did. So I always found it fascinating, because I'm somewhat ADHD too, but I'm a little more focused. Not to say that's better. I think there'd be no entrepreneurs in the world without ADHD. So Ryan is more typical of where we all are. And what I found over the years with Ryan is that he's now, not only focused into one thing today, but he started getting more focused in the stuff that was jazzing him more, that was making him feel more fulfilled and all of that. And so, I wanted to, it won't be a 45-minute question. The question, first question, and then then it's you. Right. Was, I know you've made a transition from everything to the important things, mm-hmm. and I'd love to hear, how you would talk about that as your journey, and also, how you have built various businesses that have all made millions of dollars and have all been successful, and still maintain, your good looks and your effervescent personality, and dealing with your family in a beautiful way and all of that, and still crushing it in everything you do. So I knew you when you were, basically I'm saying I knew you when you were a mess, a good mess, and now you're like an amazing mess. But you're still not a mess in the traditional sense.
We're all a little messy.
We are.
Otherwise we wouldn't be here on Zoom like a big Brady Bunch thing. Yeah. So I don't even. What was the question, Brian?
The question is, I want you to talk about your transition over the years since I've known you.
Okay.
And how that has, basically how you've grown up in this business, the we'll call it the internet marketing business, and then got into a different kind of business. And you already had a supplement business for a time, and now you have your rewind business. But just talk about that rise and where you found where you had problems, where you've crushed it, and why.
All right. Well, obviously, look, I know at the very beginning I said I want to just talk about myself, but truly, everything I talk about today, I want to give specific practical takeaways that all of you can use, because that's the point. Like, I want you to walk away with at least a couple of big ahas. Be like, all right, I get it. And I know we were talking about the idea for this, Brian, would be like the pivot, and I know that's what everyone's been talking about since the pandemic. Although I don't know if I necessarily call it a pivot. I look at it as if each of us think of ourselves as almost like a superhero, and like what's your backstory, right? Like, and you just have to know from the beginning, no matter where you are actually on your journey right now, because I see some of you, and I know some people here that I've known for like a decade, and some people are new. No matter where you are, like, life's going to be a journey. So when I first started, I set up my first website. So I was working full-time in a children's rehab hospital, and I was there for 6 years. And I worked in the pool, I did fitness, adapted aquatics, and on the side I was a trainer. So this was like 1994 to 2000, and the very, very beginning of the internet. So on the side, I was a strength and conditioning coach, and I trained young athletes. I'd go to their house. I would go to gyms. I started a strength and conditioning clinic for hockey players, although I still can't skate, which is ironic. I trained elite level figure skaters. I can't figure skate. I can't even go forwards on the damn things. So it was all off-ice conditioning. So I said, let me start a website. And this was 98, 99 to promote my training business. I didn't know how to do it. And just started writing articles online. I had my neighbor, Jonathan, who was 12 years old at the time. I paid him $20. Does anyone remember Front Page 98? Chris Mason probably remembers that one. That's what I built it on, Front Page 98. And I just wrote articles just because I was captain of my college track team. I always liked staying in shape and running, and I was a sprinter. I talked about improving your 40, jumping higher, running faster, lifting more. And it just started to grow from there. But I think with us, with a journey, the core of us doesn't change. Like back then in 98, I was in my late 20s. You know, I was 28 or something, and I'm about to be 48. So my core, my essence hasn't changed, although I was different, right? Back then, my wife and I were just about to get married. I didn't have any kids. Now here I am over 20 years later. I've been married 20 years, and I have 4 kids. So I'm on a journey. So I'm a different person than I was 20 years ago, but I don't think my core has changed to who I am and what's important. And I think no matter what business we're doing, especially if we're doing it like a personality-based business, there's that backstory and there's that thing that continues to follow through. And if you're doing it the right way, people are going to follow you on that journey, no matter which way you go. And I think that's where we get stuck. That's where a lot of us don't even get started, is because we overthink. We're like, well, if I start talking about, I don't know, copywriting for firefighters, all of a sudden I'm going to be put in that box and I'm never going to be able to do anything else, right? You think, I can't do it because I don't want to be the firefighting copywriting guy forever. And here's the thing I say, and I don't mean this to be mean or rude or insensitive, but here's the truth. How do I say this nicely? No one gives a shit about you. And what I mean by that is no one's waking up every day and saying, man, what is Ryan Skelly going to say today? Right? His wife, and think about that, but or Jack or Tom or Virginia or Carl. I'm going through all the names. Oh, there's Dane. What's going on, Dane? But they're not like obsessed with they're all worried about their own shit, right? So we harp on everything. We're like, well, if I send that email, are they going to hate me? What are they going to think about me? They're not going to, most people aren't even going to remember it. They're not even going to think about it. You give yourself a lot more latitude to do stuff. Like, I was known as the online fitness guy for a couple of years in strength and conditioning. Then I started having success and other fitness pros, and a lot of people who've become big names in fitness were my original students, where I feel old, but they call me the godfather of fitness online marketing, which drives me crazy. But they've seen me be the fitness marketing guy to a general entrepreneurial one, and I'm back in the health space where I started, like, come full circle. But that's okay, right? You take the journey, and no one's sitting around like all the thousands of customers we're getting now every month, 1,000 new customers. They're not saying, wasn't Ryan a marketing guy, 18 years ago? They're waking up saying, man, I'm like, I feel a little bloated. I feel a little crappy. Rewind. This is a cool company. Let me go see what they got going on. So, drop the excuses, drop the bullshit. Stop thinking that everyone is obsessed with what we're doing. And you can breathe a little bit. You're like, let me fucking play. And that's how I look at business. As you could see, this is actually my office. This isn't like a fake background. Those are actually video games. I have hundreds of records and cassettes, and this is like kind of the 80s fun theme. But I look at it, I don't get up and say, I have to work. I look at it and say, I get to play. And I think when you have that sense of like, I'm just going to go for it, and we're going to screw up, and you're going to have wins, you're going to have losses, and you just get up and you keep rolling with the punches. Because at the end of the day, on your deathbed, are you really going to say, oh shit, that Facebook post only got 6 likes? No, you're not. You're really not. Like, at the end, it's really not the most important thing. And I was really blessed to spend 6 years working in the Children's Hospital to see so many amazing kids. And unfortunately, I know more children that have passed away than probably all of you combined. I've seen it. Seen kids with things like scleroderma and cancer and all this type of stuff. So it gave me perspective on what's really important. And a lot of this stuff doesn't matter. It really doesn't. So get out there and just friggin' play and have fun and try shit. Like, just try things. And don't be afraid to make a shift, and don't be afraid to make a pivot. Some things are going to work, some aren't. And if they don't work, you dust yourself off and you get the fuck up and you go again. There you go. Goodbye, everybody. I feel like Ryan, Tony Robbins Jr.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't like cursing. I don't know why I'm cursing. I'm getting excited. I usually don't curse, but.
Question for you, Ryan?
Lay it on me. By the way, this is a private coaching call with Dane and I. You guys can just follow along. What's going on, buddy?
Well, I figure everyone wants to know this. Like, what are a couple examples of the ads you're writing? And then in terms of like a pattern that I'm seeing with the free 1-day micro cleanse, it looks like the pattern is shrinking down if there is a commitment to say yes threshold, and you got 90-day weight loss detox, you're like, 90 days, okay. But then like 1-day micro cleanse, the commitment to say yes to that, the threshold is so low. It's like you pick the lowest threshold offer you could think of to lead with for your free plus shipping. It's a 1-day micro cleanse. So I was just thinking about what the other gentleman who said, how does this apply to me? I was just thinking about, okay, so how could this apply to me with the easiest thing that someone could say yes to? It seems like you found it with like a 1-day micro cleanse. I've never seen any offers with such a low commitment to say yes threshold, I guess I would call it.
Yeah. I absolutely, you're right. I mean, I can't verbalize it as well as you can. I just thought, I always put myself in their shoes. And the question I asked myself to get there is, why would they say no? Right? What's going to stop them from saying yes to this offer? And why wouldn't they get the greens? Why wouldn't they buy a full container? Well, they don't know how it's going to make them feel. They don't know if they're going to like it. They don't know if they're going to taste it. They don't want to spend that much money. They want the benefit of a cleanse, but they don't want to spend 7 days. They don't want to spend $200. So what's like the easiest, lowest threshold I can get them to? And that's why I came up with this. This is our ad. This is how crazy we go, huh? That's all the copy we're doing. Need a fresh start? The 1-day micro cleanse, get your free juice. This is it.
Ryan, it's interesting, when we were talking about and again, pivot is a ridiculous word now that it's been overused like crazy the last 6 months. But the thing that I've noticed, and I've noticed this in everything you've done, that, your skill, and this is the through line for you, the skill that you develop in online marketing, in, the idea of treating serving your online family, not your list, your online family, with special, humility, actually permeates your entire career, even into a products business now, which before you were just, you were the guru giving people advice, doing little masterminds, doing personal hot seats for people. And this is just an extension into the business that you're in now, using the same skill set, isn't it?
Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, I come from a nonprofit world. So I just use that same feeling of actually caring about people and bring it online. I know it's tough because there's that balance. And I've come up with this phrase, it's the heart and the smart. There's a lot of us focus on the smart, which is the conversions, the AOVs, the pixels, the copy, the headlines, all the stuff we need to know, because you need to know that stuff. But there's also the heart stuff. There's actually caring about people. There's telling the truth. There's doing it with integrity and honesty and humility. And sometimes that kind of gets pushed to the side because we're looking only at the numbers. And I think the intersection is when you combine both is when you really win and you succeed. And again, like even just showing real world examples, like someone wrote this yesterday. Do you lose weight with the what you need to know? I don't even know what the question was. I replied to this one. She said, do you lose weight? I said, great question. Because it's just 1 day. It's not meant as a complete weight loss program. I'm telling the truth. I'm not saying, oh yeah, you're going to lose 20 pounds. However, people do lose a few pounds of water weight, right? And then when I do, instead of trying to make the sale, I say, you know what? Go to our breakfast club, go meet a few thousand people that are in there, get some social proof, become part of the community. And when you're ready, come back and give it a try. It's working really well for us, as opposed to saying, oh yeah, you're going to lose 3 pounds or 5 pounds. Here's all the testimonials, go buy. It's a little bit of a slower sale, but I think that's why our conversions are high, because people do come and they look at all the responses, right?
Yeah, and I think one thing you've always done, I know, is you do a great job responding to, I saw somebody called you an ass bagger on there.
I just saw that. These
go
are
get them,
just
go get
game.
them. Go get them right now. But you do a good job at like diffusing those people, and kind of sometimes you're able to turn them around, and then sometimes, people buy because they like your attitude and your gifts and kind of like how you respond and interact with people from a brand perspective. I think it really works well, and it endears yourself to people that are scrolling through the comment section.
Yeah. So you know what I'm going to do? Give them a little bit of this. So normally I'll be like, oh, blah, 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 but whatever. So I'll get back to the other comments, but yeah, me or my staff, we try to answer, but yeah, I'm going to have some fun with this person. Let's see what happens. So yeah, it's being human, and just responding to them in a real way. But this is, like I said, the ad is working. It's just really, really, it's really simple. And a lot of the people are having good reviews. And and this was crazy. Like every single person's positive. This person said it's the most disgusting juice I've ever had in my life. I said, hey, I'm really sorry. Email us, we'll give you a full refund. Like, I didn't delete it. I want to show them that not everyone loves it. We're not perfect. Although this person, I feel like we're showing a lot of negative. But again, will this help me lose weight? And what happens is when you run the ads, people they keep asking the same questions, which helps you with your copy because now you know what questions to ask. Is this going to help me lose weight? So this is, in a nutshell, this is what we're doing now. This is the front end that's working. The goal was to get to break even. I somehow, it took me like 3 days to realize the upsell wasn't going to work and made the shift. So it kind of was like out of the gate a winner. And we're going to keep scaling this up now. The biggest challenge we have with an e-com company is inventory. It's cash flow and managing, if it's 8 weeks to get the juice, then and how much inventory do you need, and how many of these new customers are going to be regular customers? So how much inventory do we save for them? So there's a balancing act.
Yeah, but I mean, and I've been watching. We've been talking a lot over the last couple of years since you launched Rewind, and the idea of knowing that you were going to do bars, that bars had definitely a lot shorter lifespan in inventory, that the cacao chips were melting in the mail. You learn things, and then but you knew where it wasn't like you made a pivot because it was just the next best thing. You knew the whole range of things that you wanted to do with Rewind. You started with bars, but then you've been thinking about supplements, vitamins, greens, all these other things, and you knew which ones would solve the problems that you were having with bars, right?
Yeah. I saw what was working, what wasn't working. The whole thing when I launched Rewind was my idea, which most of the two other companies I started in the past, the supplement companies, the whole thing is start with one product. Start with one really good product. Test it, see how you can get customers, see what the customer acquisition cost is, see what the lifetime customer value is. And then as you start going, and one of the greatest business books I've ever read in my life, Ready, Fire, Aim by
Mark Ford.
Yeah, or Michael Masterson, as he was known back then, had one of his chapters, and it's like a 5-minute thing, but it's the most important thing for marketing. We know we're advanced marketers. The front end is customer acquisition, and the profit's on the back end, right? But if we can't get that front end working, then there's no profit on the back end. So we focused on the bar. We tried to sell it. I did it for about 1.5 years, different iterations, different flavors. The margins were too tight. We weren't getting enough lifetime customer value. It was too much to get a customer. Chips were melting. It was much more expensive to ship because the box is bigger. It would cost $8 to $10 to ship versus just a couple bucks now for juice. And I made a tough decision a couple of months ago to say, we have to pause the bars because it's just not working. And I told my customers, we're going to pause the bars, and people were upset, some of them, but because we've been building relationships, we weren't just transactional. We weren't just a product. They're like, you know what? I'm a little disappointed because I love the bars. However, we love Rewind. We love your brand. We love everything you stand for. We're going to try the greens. We're going to ride with you. And we made the shift. And now we have the front end offer that's working, right? And now all the new customers, the thousands of customers that are coming in every week, they don't even know we had bars. That's what I'm saying. Like, people have a short memory. It's like a month. It's almost like it never existed. I mean, think about it. When was the last time you said I'm going to, well, most of us probably don't eat this anyway, but when was the last time you said I'm going to Kentucky Fried Chicken? They say KFC. When we were kids, it was called Kentucky Fried Chicken, right? No one ever said I'm going to KFC. Things change. And that's, look, Uncle Ben's is changing to just Original Ben's. And they've been around for 100-something years. So
one thing that you glossed over, which when you were in bars, one thing that you said, you have to get the first product out. But I think what you did, which I thought was great, is that you had the super bar, which
Mm-hmm.
was like the one bar, which wasn't a real flavor. It was just like we'll call it a unibar of something.
Yeah, it was like an all-in-one type.
All-in-one, right?
Yeah.
And so you were assuming at that point, this is the product I'm going out with. This will be my hero product. And what you did was, which is really important, is that you have to let your audience tell you, is this the best product? It might be good enough to start the business, but then when you started adding some flavors, I think you realized that the cinnamon coffee cake was much better. And I think before you moved away from bars, you had already decided that the original bar was taking a hike. You were getting rid of it.
Yeah.
And you were focusing on the others. I mean, it's not a big shift, but you're shifting with the audience, not shifting.
We were listening.
Or which one you like the best.
Yeah, I mean, look, Ryan Skelly was there from the beginning. He was behind the scenes with me, and he saw, and we both saw the ads we were running at the beginning. Almost every single negative were, because this was 2 years ago when everyone was keto, right? Keto. You can't even have 1 gram of sugar or carb. And our bar had, I believe it had 9 grams of sugar, which I got down to. I'm like, 9 grams is nothing. In a bar? Nothing. People would have thought I was trying to kill their babies. Like,
Yeah.
You're poisoning us with sugar. It's more addictive than cocaine, you must be keto. So I'm like, all right, we need to lower sugar more. And that's where we went off in the direction and flavors. And then, we launched the 4 or 5 new flavors, and then we phased out the original. So that was pivot 1. We phased out the original. We got a little bit of blowback. Then we phased out the bars, got a little more blowback, but that's okay. You're just kind of listening to the market and just continuing to provide. And as long as we still have that brand and that flow through of we're here, we care, we're going to be transparent, and we're always telling them the truth of why we're doing things and how it works and the process behind it. And here's why it's taking 8 weeks or 10 weeks, or here's why we're sold out, and here's what we're going to do about it. And here's why we're reducing this bar. Yeah. But people are like, well, you're kind of ballsy to make these changes. One of my friends who's a big finance guy said, never get rid of a product if you have customers. And I said, but we're going to get new customers, and I think the ones who like us are going to stick with us. He's like, no, they're just there for the product. I'm like, I don't think so. Not always.
No.
So
That's a cognitive bias.
Thanks for listening to the Timeless Marketing Podcast with Brian Kurtz. Visit briankurtz.net and click podcast at the top of the page for a full transcript and show notes. If you're interested in working with Brian personally inside of Titans Accelerator, go to briankurtz.net/help to see how Titans can help you grow and scale your business. That's briankurtz.net/help.